wrestling fans, and welcome to the 10th episode of the WrestleReview series. Yes, we've somehow made it this far. I'm your host Nathan Packham, and I urge you wherever you're listening from to be sure to like, repost and share if you are enjoying the content. And you can send feedback to WrestleReviewFans@gmail.com. Don't forget all other episodes are archived on the YouTube and SoundCloud page, so be sure to check those out as well. You can follow WrestleReview on Facebook and Twitter. You can find us at facebook.com/WrestleReviewFans or follow at WrestleReviewPC on Twitter. This podcast is also now a member of the OSW Podcast Network on www.piledriverwrestling.net. Join the OSW community to discuss and follow the show and to listen to the other great shows on the network. So today I'm joined by a man who once said that WrestleMania IX was the best pay-per-view ever, and who was incidentally briefly in a band called Summerslam '88. It's very much my older brother, Mark Packham. How you doing, Mark?
How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. How are you doing?
Good.
First time on the show?
It is the first time. I still stand by the fact that WrestleMania IX is a great pay-per-view.
I don't understand where you're getting that from. A couple of things. Undertaker Giant Gonzalez.
Great match.
Is awful.
Great match.
Can't remember what happens at the finish. Undertaker gets gassed or something.
Chloroformed.
Yep, chloroformed. Also, Hogan being a dick. Coming down did he come down in a helicopter or something?
Something like that. I can't really remember, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've watched it. But yeah, so the main event is Bret Hart, Yokozuna.
Yep.
Yokozuna wins, and then Hogan comes down, and then for no reason at all, there's another match where Hogan beats Yokozuna for the title.
If I ever get to that pay-per-view on this podcast, you're definitely the special guest.
Yeah, it's great.
So you can look at it with adult eyes and realise it's awful.
I think it's good. I think it's a good one.
But anyway, to talk about this week's episode, we're looking back at the inaugural SummerSlam pay-per-view in 1988, coming to you from the world's most famous arena, New York City's Madison Square Garden. The event saw the Mega Powers, that's Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, meet the Mega Bucks. That's Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant, with of course Ted DiBiase's bitch Virgil. And this pay-per-view also saw the Honky Tonk Man take on a mysterious opponent for the Intercontinental title. Before we actually get to the event, I'll give you some background on what went down before this, etc. This was one of the original Big Four pay-per-views created by the WWF to further compete with WCW. This saw the WWF pit their Big Four events through the year against WCW's monthly events. Of course, the WWF would eventually go monthly as well with their pay-per-views. In terms of the Intercontinental picture, the Honky Tonk Man was the longest-running Intercontinental champion going into the event, and Brutus Beefcake had been taken out beforehand by Outlaw Ron Bass. No one even remembers him, leading to this mysterious opponent, the mystery opponent stipulation. We've also got a tag match for the tag titles featuring Demolition against the Hart Foundation. This was set up after the Hart Foundation became faces just a few weeks earlier, and they ditched poor old Jimmy Hart. There was a feud going into this between Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. There's no actual match randomly between these two at the event, but the feud continues, as you'll see. Basically, it all started off with Jake Roberts' wife Cheryl saying no to a kiss from Rick Rude. Rude began to wear tights with Cheryl's face on them, bit disturbing, prompting Jake Roberts to strip Rick Rude, although Rick Rude was actually wearing a G-string, even though the television audience seemed to think Rude was naked. And then, in terms of the main event picture, after WrestleMania IV, Savage feuded with Ted DiBiase throughout the summer. Andre the Giant performed a 2-on-1 attack when Savage was performing a promo. DiBiase challenged Savage to a tag match with Andre, and Savage managed to get Hogan back, who was just coming back from filming the film No Holds Barred. Don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't.
Sounds awful.
I watched quite a lot of Thunder in Paradise.
Is Hogan in that?
He is. It's he's sort of a crime buster who is in Miami, I think, and Thunder in Paradise is the boat that he uses to get around. Good times.
Speaking of film stars, Jesse Ventura and Governors. Jesse Ventura was announced as the ref for this match, and it's ambiguous whether he was paid by DiBiase to be biased, as he often favoured the heels in commentary. It was originally planned for Ric Flair, actually, to come over from the NWA and challenge for Savage's title, but Flair remained loyal to the NWA, and the Mega Powers were created in his absence. So I would have loved to have seen Flair and Savage go at it earlier than they did. I think they had a match at WrestleMania 8 later on, so that'll be something to see. But that, of course, WrestleMania 8 should have been Hogan Flair all the way, but it never happened. But we'll get to the event itself now. So we begin with the classic WWF intro as we fly through a crazy mountain range, and the WWF logo is revealed. We're in NYC for this event, and we get a cliche shot of the Manhattan skyline, with the Twin Towers rather awkwardly as the most prominent skyscrapers.
Oh, I noticed that as well.
Oh dear. Monsoon welcomes us in perhaps the most enthusiastic manner I've ever heard him. He's simply bursting with excitement. We cut to an intro to the event itself using another classic WWF theme they used for ages in the late 80s and early 90s. There are shots of an apprehensive Elizabeth, the pumped-up Mega Powers, and the villainous Mega Bucks. Monsoon isn't with Ventura and is instead joined by shitty star Billy Graham.
Can I just say that I made some notes.
Yeah.
I started watching SummerSlam 88 about 2 weeks before we were recording this. And I can't remember exactly what caused me to write this, but my first note is superstar Billy Graham looks awful.
He does look awful.
Well, I just looked back because I didn't really know who he was, to be honest. I think that's a bit before my time when I'm looking at some info of him here, and it looks like late 70s.
Right, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So a bit before my time, but I've just seen, it's reminded me, to be honest, I'd forgotten who he was, even by the time we're recording this now.
Yeah.
So looking back at a picture of him, he's reminded me, he's doing the colour commentary, and he looks awful.
He does look. Well, he's one of the most famous steroid users, I think.
Is he?
In the industry? I don't think he ever really hid his use of steroids.
He looks like Scott Steiner in the mid-90s, or in the late 90s,
what happened
I guess.
to Scott? Oh,
terrible.
Dear. So yeah, superstar Billy Graham, who in a really clunky manner looks over the main event and Hulk Hogan's return, starting off a night of awful and annoying co-commentary. The Rougeaus are in the ring, flying patronisingly small American flags, and the Fink lets us know they are hoping to relocate to America very soon. The Bulldogs and Matilda enter to a huge Madison Square Garden ovation. Little background info on this one. Apparently, there was real backstage beef between these two teams, including a punch-up which occurred when Mr. Perfect pulled a prank on the Bulldogs. No, on the Rougeaus. Vince McMahon had to get in between the two teams and tell them to straighten their act out. So the Rougeaus ask for a handshake early on in the match, and obviously they don't receive it. Strange behaviour for heels. Davey Boy Smith starts off with Jacques, and he delivers early court head smashes to the Canadian in the corner. The Rougeaus hug it out in the corner after a barrage of early offense from the Bulldogs. Raymond tries a monkey flip, but Davey Boy Smith lands at his feet and tags in the Dynamite Kid. Graham keeps saying brother after every statement. I don't know if you noticed this.
Really, really annoying the whole way through. I know that's Hogan's thing, but to hear someone else just do it as part of their commentary, literally all the way through, is unbearable.
And he said it for like the most mundane things as well. He's like, I'm going for a shit, brother.
Yeah, completely. Brother. Absolutely awful. Can I just say that at this match, I was saying, like, superstar Billy Graham, bit before my time. SummerSlam 88, to be honest, bit before my time. I didn't realise that there was two British Bulldogs.
Well, you've never heard of the Dynamite Kid?
No, not at all.
He's an absolutely legendary British wrestler.
Yeah, I always knew Davey Boy Smith as the British Bulldog.
Yeah, the British Bulldog.
So yeah, I didn't know. That was interesting to see.
He's not in a great condition now, Dynamite Kid. I think he's lost a leg and is in a wheelchair or something.
Oh dear.
Which is a shame after you see how good he can be. So Graham is also incoherently and enthusiastically behind the faces, another trend which would grow incredibly tiresome during the 2 3/4 hours of the event. As we progress, we get awesome arm drags and sunset flips from both teams and great quick tagging for the Bulldogs. It's strange that the faces have so much offense early on, but this booking decision makes more sense as the match runs for a long time. Matilda the dog has no interest and is staring blankly in the crowd as the Rougeaus eventually get some kind of momentum back as Jacques pulls a leg on the outside. Billy Graham bizarrely describes the trip as a wishbone move. No idea what that means. With the Rougeaus in control...
Pulling the wishbone.
Yeah. I kind of see. That's a terrible analogy for it, though.
Yeah, it's awful.
With the Rougeaus in control, Raymond hits a great backdrop on Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy Smith is now desperate for a tag as his leg is continually worked on. One of the submissions by the Rougeaus is reversed into a small package by Davey Boy Smith, but he doesn't quite have enough energy to get a tag. He does eventually get a tag after reversing another leg torque into a standing monkey flip. Dynamite Kid comes in and is one of the hottest of hot taggers with amazing quick moves, including his patented snap suplexes. Raymond has to take a break on the outside. Back inside, Raymond is hit by a running power slam from Davey Boy Smith, but Jacques saves him from what would have been an inevitable 3. He also backdrops Dynamite Kid illegally to save Raymond again. Jacques is tagged in, and the Rougeaus perform an awesome body slam onto knee tag team move thing. The Dynamite Kid is put in an abdominal stretch by both Rougeaus, but both can't quite hook it in, and the Dynamite Kid gets out. Jacques clenches in some sort of camel clutch. Dynamite Kid picks him up, but the ref is distracted by Davey Boy Smith, and the Rougeaus team illegally again to keep the hold in. Dynamite Kid still can't get a tag. He does get a small package pin going, but the ref is distracted, so he can't count the 3. Monsoon once again calls for more than one ref in tag matches, like he does in every show. Are you a fan of that idea? I mean, they've never really done it.
Yeah, so they were... Because, again, I haven't seen much around this time.
Yeah.
This is a bit before my time. I think I seem to remember coming in and I was kind of like a WCW guy, maybe in the early 90s.
Right.
And then...
Stinger!
Stinger, like Surfer Sting and stuff, because it was on British TV.
Yeah.
Whereas WWE/F was only on Sky, which we didn't have.
Which we've never had.
Which we've never had. So
Dad.
I remember the first pay-per-view that I probably saw was the Rumbles, maybe 94, 95.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason that I saw that is because they used to have them on video in the video rental place.
Amazing.
So I used to get them from there. And so, again, bit before my time. So I didn't really know why they kept going on about 2 referees. I thought it might be part of an ongoing storyline. No,
it's just something that's brought up in every show.
Why?
Especially 6-man tag matches.
Awful.
Because... I think it's just some way to engage the audience, because obviously it's never going to happen. Where were we? Calls for the referee. There we go. Dynamite Kid manages to make a tag, but once again the referee is distracted, so doesn't see. He finally gets the tag. Dynamite Kid misses a dropkick, but gets a power slam on the Rougeaus in the ring. I've no idea which Rougeau it was at this point, got completely confused. Yep. And crotches him on the ropes. Dynamite Kid and David Boy Smith hit a power slam / headbutt move, but the time limit has expired, so the Bulldogs can only get a 1 count. Wow. What did you think of this one?
It was good. Standard pay-per-view opener, tag match where nothing really happens. Yeah. Time limit is the worst way to finish a match. What were they thinking?
It's the 80s. There's loads of time limit matches.
Yeah, again, I've never really seen that. I'm used to someone being put through a table or someone falling off a ladder and completely mangling themselves. But yeah, time limit is the worst way to finish a match. This was good. I would say 2 things. Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, looks incredible at this point. He looks young. And
a bit steroidy.
a bit bulked. Dynamite Kid's really good at selling. He every time he gets hit, it looks like he.
That's because it probably was hurting him. I think he had very bad back problems.
Yeah,
already.
I was just reading about his disability, and again, they think it's caused by too many diving headbutts,
right,
causing back problems.
Well, there was another wrestler who did a few diving headbutts. We know how that ended.
Yeah. I thought it was good. 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Well, I'm doing 5, so that'd be a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Okay,
I was just thinking, as there's 10 matches, we can mark them out of 10, and then you get a percentage.
Well, I do it more on feel.
Okay, well, fine.
I had similar thoughts. Well-paced technical match-up where the heels were on the back foot in the opening, which I thought was an interesting start. You often don't see that. I gave this 3.5 stars out of 5. At the end of the match, the Bulldogs chase away the Rougeaus as Billy Graham tells them to finish it in the showers, brother. Wow. So then we get a random recap of Brutus Beefcake's injury. Beefcake can't wrestle as he was injured on Superstars of Wrestling by Outlaw Ron Bass.
Big names.
Yeah, big names. He gets rid of the referee and drags Beefcake round by the throat with his whip. He then rakes away at his face with his boot spur, and Beefcake is bleeding. Because it's the 80s, we get a massive censorship sign in the middle so that we can't see the blood.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's weird.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Rumble 2000, where Mae Young gets things out, and there's a censorship sign, and you can still sort of see everything. Yeah, it reminded me of that. The roster eventually comes out and stops the beatdown. but not the massive censorship banner, which is still there. The program actually during the event, in fact, still advertised Beefcake versus Honky Tonk Man. Beefcake was supposed to end the Honky Tonk Man's reign, but businessman Vince McMahon realised the power of the Warrior, and so went with him.
Spoilers.
I suppose that is a spoiler. There you go. Match 2 then. Oh, jeez. Bottom of the barrel. Here we go.
So, again, I watched this a couple of weeks ago, and I completely forgot all about this match.
Right,
I skipped back when I watched it. I finished watching this yesterday, and I skipped back. My only notes are... Okay, so my 2 notes from this match, and this will probably cross over with your rundown of the match.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what the white fella's name was, so...
Ken Patera.
I've got the white fella looks like a grandma.
Yes.
And Bad News Brown's finisher is called the Ghetto Blaster.
Yeah, I've got that down. Yeah, we've mentioned that in previous episodes.
Which seemed a little...
Amazing.
A little close to the bone. But say what you need to say, and I'll give you my marking.
Yeah, so...
There's not much to say.
I've got very little here. Bad News Brown jumps the bell. Patera clotheslines him and removes his jacket, finally to reveal a rather bizarre singlet, adding to his granny feel.
Yeah, he's not looking good.
You know, it's like granny in the 40s going to a pool.
Yeah.
That kind of what it reminded me of.
Coming out for beach hut.
Yeah, oh god. Bad News Barrett chokes and clothesline Patera on the apron. Patera gains the upper hand, tries various pins, but keeps getting a 1 count. Applies the bear hug. Billy Graham suggests dropping to the knees, but Bad News Brown thumbs Patera in the eye. Patera tries a full Nelson, but both times Bad News Brown makes the ropes. Patera misses a shoulder tackle in the corner and is hit by the Enziguri / Ghetto Blaster by Bad News Brown. Bad News Brown picks up the win with the 3. This for me was a lumbering, very dull match. Both men have little skill to go beyond this kind of short filler. 2 out of 5 from me.
See, I have seen some really bad matches, so I went for the 5 out of 10.
Right, so 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 out of.
Yeah.
Just because I quite like Bad News Brown, to be honest.
I don't. But Ken Patera is one of the worst in ring
absolutely useless. Yeah, absolutely useless. And he looks like an old lady.
And a former jailbird, of course, which we've mentioned previously on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
What did he do?
Threw a rock at a McDonald's or something and then assaulted a police officer.
Okay.
I think that's the story anyway. We then get a random advert for the Lalonde-Leonard fight coming up on November the 7th from Caesar's Palace.
That's just all the way through.
Yeah, the place which held the greatest pay-per-view ever, WrestleMania IX. This is followed by an extended commentary promotion of the event. The WWF must have had some kind of deal here or something to promote the show. Throughout the night, Gorilla Monsoon describes this event as a happening, which he says just about every time the advert comes on. And I must thank OSW Review for pointing that out to me when I was watching their review of the event.
Can I just say quickly that I just googled Ken Patera, and one of his related searches is Jeep Swenson.
Who is that?
Who is he was a British professional wrestler,
right? And
he played Bane in Batman and Robin, which is one of the worst films ever. And then he died.
Oh right, okay.
Last thing he did.
He just died straight away.
Yep.
After playing Bane, you've got to have some like physical attributes of Bane.
He is absolutely massive.
Steroid
I would
ban?
imagine that contributed to his death.
Right, okay.
Carry on.
Jet what?
Jeep Swenson.
Jeep Swenson. Okay, I'll try to remember that. We then get an interview with the Mega Powers, Savage, Hogan, and Elizabeth. They reveal that Elizabeth is their secret weapon for the match. We'll find out about that later. Oh my goodness. God. And that's what she's planning. And what she's planning is the equivalent to the Kiss of Death. Or the Arse of Doom, possibly. This is all accompanied by a terrible electronic screen, which is a feature of most of these promos. Ooh. Match 3 then is Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan against the Junkyard Dog. Doesn't sound that great on paper, but I reserve that judgment for the end. Rude cuts his usual I'm really good looking and you're not promo.
Yep.
Describing New York City men as fat, ugly, inner city sweat hogs. The Junkyard Dog is on Rick Rude's tights, which is plain weird.
Yeah.
Rude Pearl Harbor's... Yeah, I've said Pearl Harbored. I've done it now. Pearl Harbor's JYD before the bell. However, a backdrop from the Junkyard Dog and some headbutts on the floor knock Rude to the outside. Billy Graham says at this point that Rude's aspiration to work for Chippendales is over.
Yeah.
Later on, Rude hits a double axe handle up top. The JYD takes it so well, and I love the way he bumps. Billy Graham describes the Junkyard Dog's head as having a shell as hard as a coconut.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Rick Rude chokes the JYD during a headbutt as Bobby Heenan distracts a very young-looking Tim White, who would, of course, be later involved in a suicide storyline on WWE.com.
Wait, what?
So, do you want to know about this?
Maybe
so,
not.
Tim White was a referee who injured himself in a Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and Chris Jericho.
Okay.
Effectively ending his refereeing career.
Yep.
I think it did. And then they brought him back a few years later on WWE.com with Josh Matthews. Remember him?
No.
It was just a young guy, interviewer guy who stayed with him. He's now on TNA, I think. And
yeah, I do remember him.
They would do segments such as Tim White putting himself through a fan, like a big, massive fan, and just killing himself through a fan. I don't know, because he was so depressed about not being able to referee.
No, brilliant.
And the segment was like called Tim White Meets His Biggest Fan or something.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the story of Tim White there.
Can I just interject with some notes? My first note is, why is Rick Rude wearing a dressing gown?
That's what he comes to the ring with.
I can't believe he lasted till the 90s.
Yeah, I love Rick Rude.
Yeah.
One of my favourites.
I do. He's pretty good.
Too many steroids, but one of my favourites.
He's pretty good, but I don't think he was that roidy. He looks quite lean.
He was very roidy.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
You've seen that body. That's not possible.
Yeah, true. I really like him. Great heel.
Yeah.
Classic, like, never made a face turn, I don't think.
I can't think of a...
But yeah, he's got a very 80s vibe, so it's quite weird to see him, like, when you see him with, like, DX and stuff.
Yeah, later on.
Very
it's
bizarre.
Weird. Oh god, I've lost it. We're on Tim White. Rude poses, swivels his hips. He tries to work the arms, but the JYD's arms are also too hard. Headbutt by the JYD. Heenan distracts. A knee to the back from Rude, and Rude hits a weird reverse net breaker. He pulls his pants down from the top to reveal another set of tights with the face of Jake Roberts' wife on them. Roberts rushes to the ring and clotheslines Rude out of the ring. Thus, the JYD is DQ'd and Rude picks up the win. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. Solid display from two wrestling legends. Could do little with the time they had, and was also slightly spoiled by the inclusion of this Rude Roberts feud. So why have this match and not Rude v Roberts?
Yeah, so that was my thought as well. I gave it a 5 out of 10, 2.5 out of 5. Yeah, it was just weird. Like, why do that match and then do another match with Jake later on?
Yeah.
Why don't they just fight each other?
Yeah.
Did they fight each other later on?
I think they did. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fine. Yeah, it was good. Rude is good if you like the bad guys, which I prefer the. I don't know. In the sort of 80s stuff, I find those characters a bit obvious.
Yeah.
But he's good. He's both of them have got chops. They're both good.
I love JYD, even though he can't really wrestle.
Yeah.
He's great. The JYD is a bit annoyed by Jake Roberts, but seems to show at least a little bit of understanding. This was unfortunately the JYD's last WWF pay-per-view appearance.
Really? Why?
Well, I don't know where he went to. Might have to look that up.
Oh,
I know he died in a car crash in like 98 or something. We're backstage now with Mean Gene and the Honky Tonk Man. The Honky Tonk Man says some incoherent stuff about how he's a humanitarian for giving a title shot to a random superstar. Match 4 is the Bolsheviks, so the aging Nikolai Volkov and
Terrible.
Boris Zhukov.
Rubbish.
But Slicks, I like Slick. Slick's in there, the Slickster.
Yeah, just before you get into it, my first note is Slick looks completely mashed.
Of course, it's the Slickster.
He looks wasted.
And they're against the Powers of Pain, Barbarian and the Warlord with the Baron. Still didn't really know who the Baron is. He's just kind of there.
Yeah, he. I don't know if you haven't watched Vikings, have you?
No.
The Baron looks a little bit like the Seer from Vikings, that sort of shrouded
Any geeks out there?
mystery man who is
shit.
basically pointless.
So, Slick asked the congregation of illiterate people to stand and listen to the Soviet national anthem, even though they can understand his speech and don't need to read it. The bell is jumped yet again in this pay-per-view as the Powers of Pain enter.
They're desperate to get into it.
Yeah, I know. They might, to stop the Soviet national anthem, of course.
What they want to do is start the match early and then have a time limit or have some sort of disqualification.
Yes.
Have any of these matches? Oh, the thingy, the granny match.
that was just a solid
botched ending.
Yeah. The Powers of Pain beat on the Bolsheviks, so they take a breather outside. Zhukov is then beaten up badly when back in the ring. This includes an awesome gut wrench by the Warlord on Zhukov. There's another call by the commentary team for 2 refs again to deal with the antics between Slick and the Baron. The Warlord is eventually beaten in the corner by the Bolsheviks. The Baron finally threatens Slick, but Slick has his usual cane to protect him. Volkov hits a bizarre roundhouse knee on the Warlord, but he blocks the double backdrop and smashes elbows on the back. The Barbarian is eventually tagged in and comes in with the usual fury displayed by a face hot tag with karate chops, etc. A double shoulder tackle by the Powers of Pain, a power slam, and then a diving headbutt sees the Powers of Pain pick up the win. Very little wrestling in this one, apart from the swift and strong ending. 2.5 stars out of 5 from me.
So, my notes are Bolsheviks is an overused gimmick. It probably was then. It definitely is now. Yeah. It's the reason I don't care about Rusev in any way.
He's not necessarily a Bolshevik, though.
Well, but, just someone from
Russia.
Yeah, just general bad guys.
Yeah.
My other big note, I wrote a few on this, but my other big note was, is this the least agile match ever?
It might be.
Just 4 fat geezers having...
Volkov here has got to be 50 or something.
Probably. And the other thing was, almost missed the flying headbutt.
Right, but just got there.
At the end.
I think I remember he was miles away.
He is absolutely miles away. And I noticed it on... There's a bit in the Hogan match at the end where a similar thing happens. Someone misses a move just because they're so far away. And particularly in this match when... I mean, the guys in this, minimum must be like 20 stone.
Yeah.
And to throw yourself that far across the ring, it's no wonder.
Yeah.
It's a really obvious missed headbutt. But the guy, the Bolshevik manages to sell it. It's fine.
What did you give it?
7 out of 10.
Oh, you really like this match?
Yeah, well, it was slow, and they were big, bulky fellas, and they were all essentially have no character.
Yeah.
But, decent. I think it was nice little breather after the absolute guff that's come before it.
Well, Rick Rude.
Yeah, it was all right.
That was all right.
Yeah, it was all right.
We get an advert for Survivor Series on Thanksgiving from the Richfield Coliseum. It's promoted as a post-Thanksgiving meal dessert, like 1987 was. Now Brother Love is introduced.
Awful.
To a chorus of boos. The commentary team note that he's often only happy when someone is stuffing money into his pocket. He does the classic, I love you. Billy Graham says that Brother Love says that his guest is only a special one because he's on his show and needs to learn a lesson of love. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is introduced. Once again, Monsoon persists with the idea that he's saying yo and not ho, even though his shirt now says this. Hacksaw Jim Duggan says Brother Love is a phony, as Brother Love calls him Brother Dugan, before Brother Love says to Hacksaw he has no love in his heart. Brother Love rather inadvisedly uses Canadian Dino Bravo as someone who truly loves his country. Hacksaw Jim Duggan says that he's the true patriot and that a lot of Canadians don't like the actions of Bravo. He almost hits Brother Love with his 2x4 and warns him he'll put it where the sun doesn't shine. Brother Love says, I love you again, but Hacksaw Jim Duggan carries on with his 5-count warning and Brother Love runs away. What a load of crap.
I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
What?
He's one of the only people I can really remember, because he may have even been in WCW.
Yeah, I think he was.
When I was kind of watching it. And he's one of the only guys who is brainless, who I actually really like. Just because he's so charming.
Right, okay.
And this, I really, really like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I've got a lot of time for him. Even when he was in the Rumble a couple of years ago.
Right.
Or was it this year? No, it was a couple of years ago.
He's always in the Rumble.
And he looked dreadful. I've got a lot of time for him. This made me want to burn my eyes out. I hate Brother Love.
What? I see. I'm not that. I didn't like the promo, but I quite like Brother Love.
Awful. I'm so glad that he wasn't a big feature when I was heavily into WWE.
The Brother Love music played throughout the promo, making it kind of hypnotic and surreal, and rather annoying. That was one of the things that I wrote down as well. But there wasn't much else to add in this promo, to be fair.
Just no point.
Filler. Complete filler.
What? I don't know who they were. Who were they trying to put over? What was the point of it? Like, Duggan doesn't have a match. Probably wasn't on a run at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know what the point of it was.
We get another advert for the boxing match, and the commentary team talk it up again before we move to match 5, the Intercontinental title match. The Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart versus a mystery opponent. The Honky Tonk Man doesn't care who his opponent is and just wants to get the match going. Jimmy Hart uses his megaphone to go to whoever the opponent is, and it's the Ultimate Warrior, who has now very much perfected his run to the ring after a clunky start to his running career. The bell is jumped yet again as the Warrior comes in super hot, hitting punches, a power slam, a flying tackle, and a clothesline before hitting his patented splash for the victory, and to become your new Intercontinental Champion in around 30 seconds. So much adrenaline and emotion in the arena for this one. Warrior has really perfected that crazy run to the ring and his character. This was so intense, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars.
So, Honky Tonk Man is rubbish.
Are you not a fan? He's a good character wrestler.
He's great character, but was he ever a good wrestler? Have you ever seen a good match with him in, where the actual wrestling skill is good?
Not really, no.
No, exactly. So this, and I hadn't already looked at the card, but I sort of remember Warrior taking the Intercontinental Championship from Honky Tonk Man, so I kind of knew who was coming in. But I hadn't looked any of this up, so it hadn't spoiled me for that. So I was kind of glad. I knew it was going to be Warrior. What I didn't know was how short the match was going to be. So, firstly, Warrior feels like the first real superstar in this event, I think.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Bulldog Davey Boy Smith looked great in the opener.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell that there's something there. And there's a few people on this card who are like either lower card or mid card guys at this point who they're going to be the people running the business later on down the line. Like you see Brett later on, and in his match he looks so much better than everyone else.
That we will get to that, and that's exactly what I've written down.
And Bulldog looked pretty much better than everyone else in that first match. This feels like the first match on the card proper.
Just the first match.
It feels like the first match, and we're halfway up. We're 5 matches in. Warrior looks amazing. Like you say, his entrance is, of course, amazing. Yeah. Great music, great look.
Which is weird, because earlier on, when we've done other shows, he's been, really clunky and really, rookie, basically. With just with doing the running.
Yeah.
Let alone his in-ring work. Yeah, so, I don't know what happened in the months leading up to this, but...
He probably just got a bit of TV time and, managed to actually perfect it and stuff.
Vince was like, go running.
Indeed. Get to the performance centre. Wait, they didn't have that then.
No, they had the steroid centre.
Yeah,
instead.
Exactly. The doctors. 7 out of 10 for me. 3.5 out of 5.
Right, yeah.
I thought that it was good to see Warrior. Shame he was not on screen for more than 30 seconds.
We get a second intro for the event, exactly the same as the first. Perhaps an indication that we've reached half-time or something. I don't know.
Probably a long ad break or something at that point.
Yeah, Bobby Heenan intrudes on the commentators, and Billy Graham warns that he's going to throw him over the edge if he doesn't shut up. He paints a picture of his very relaxed dressing room with Andre the Giant reading the Wall Street Journal, Ted DiBiase looking at his 4 suitcases of money, and Virgil looking on in the corner enjoying it all. Meanwhile, he says Hogan and Savage have put a dresser to stop people coming into their room, and that he could hear screaming and shouting emanating from the dressing room. Match 6 then is Don Muraco versus Dino Bravo. A rematch from the WrestleMania 4 Round 1 thing. Muraco comes out to more shitty overdub network music, and he's still got his psychedelic shirt on, but he's no longer managed by Graham. And Graham and Bobby Heenan argue before the match has really got going, as Monsoon suggests that Frenchie Martin, Dino Bravo's manager, should go back to France or wherever he comes from. Dino Bravo's world record strongman title is still very much disputed, unsurprisingly. Heenan randomly responds by saying, if you want to talk legal, then go 30 miles an hour. I have no idea why.
I was asleep through this whole match.
You fell asleep?
There's no point. I didn't actually, but I hate Dino Bravo. I didn't know who the other guy was. I thought it was funny that he was called The Rock.
You've never heard of Don Muraco?
Nah. Both of these men look like they were from the 1950s.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. Muraco hits an early hip toss and arm drags and a clunky monkey flip. Bobby Heenan says that Dino Don Muraco is just good for changing the oil in the Hawaii airport cars.
Yeah, brilliant.
Wow. Bravo gets some momentum back with a reverse neck breaker. However, Muraco hits a decent reverse neck breaker of his own. Muraco nails Frenchie Martin, who's now up on the apron. The referee is down after a kick, giving Bravo the chance to reverse and hit a side slam / side suplex finisher for the 3. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I found it to be a decent but short match. These guys know how to wrestle a half-competent filler. Little factoid here. This was Muraco's last pay-per-view appearance for the WWF. Before, I don't know where he went after that.
Died.
I don't think he's still alive, I believe.
Oh, right, okay, fine. Yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 10, 2.5 out of 5. Not bothered. My last note on that was, even by WWF standards, these two are meatheads. Just characterless blocks.
Even with that psychedelic shirt going on.
Pointless.
Nothing going on with
That's
Muraco.
what they used to have to do back in the day, like, to tart them up.
Revive the 60s.
You didn't have the straight-edge superstar. No. You had the tie-dye twat.
Don Muraco, the tie-dye twat.
Go on then, match 7.
Well, there's a little bit before that. We get
on.
another advert for Survivor Series again, and Sean Mooney is interviewing Jesse the Body Ventura. Don't agree with Jesse's politics, but I do quite like him as a commentator and superstar. Ventura is, of course, the referee for the main event, described by himself as the first good decision made by the dull Jack Tunney during his presidency. There's some confusion over whether Ventura accepted the money given to him by the $1 Million Man, or whether it was just stuffed into his clothing. Ventura is very honest and says he was happy to accept free money like anybody else would. I love Ventura as a superstar. Match 7.
Again, like a bit before my time, really. He had gone, I think,
to become governor. I think it was governor of Minnesota.
He was, governor of Minnesota. I think he'd gone at that point. By the time I was kind of heavily into it, so good to see him actually doing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, probably not a nice dude.
Match 7 then is the Hart Foundation, who are now heavy faces versus Demolition in their gimp masks.
Yeah.
With who are they with? Mr. Fuji and Jimmy Hart, after the Hart Foundation dumped him and he started to steal money and tell secrets to their managers. And this is, of course, for the tag titles. So Bret Hart obviously looks so smooth in the opening, performing roll-ups and arm drags. Jimmy Anvil Neidhart, when he's tagged in, is stopped by a boot on the apron by Illegal Man Axe. Bret Hart is back in again, looking awesome, until his arm is round him to the post of a reverse Irish whip, and the whole crowd is hoping this isn't Ken Patera Part 2. Oh wait, no, it's Bret Hart, who actually has some kind of wrestling ability. Jimmy Anvil Neidhart chases away the increasingly annoying Jimmy Hart, who goes to the back. Demolition work on Bret Hart's injured arm. His arm is caught in the ropes for ages at one point. Axe also hits a shoulder breaker to Bret Hart. We get various armbars, submissions as well upon Bret. Billy Graham equates this to torture. Hart's arm is also rammed into the ring post on the outside by Illegal Man Smash. Jimmy Anvil Neidhart just stays on the apron and doesn't seem to care at all. Maybe already aware that Bret Hart is vastly more talented than him and is resenting it very much. Billy Graham is so annoying in this match, constantly saying brother again after each statement, such as, oh, Bret's arm, brother, all the time. Hart hits a clothesline finally and gets the tag, but the ref is distracted by the heels and the ref doesn't see it. Hart gets the boot in the corner after being sent there and finally gets the tag. Usual hot tag fodder from Neidhart, who hits a dropkick and a scoop slam. Both Demolition members retreat outside. Bret Hart slingshots and Jimmy Anvil Neidhart hits a flying shoulder tackle. Neidhart hits a big power slam but only gets a 2. Hart Foundation Irish whip each other and Jimmy Anvil Neidhart hits another shoulder tackle. A backbreaker pin is broken up. The ref is distracted by a ruckus, you know that word, ruckus or whatever.
A ruckus.
By Neidhart and Mr. Fuji. Jimmy Hart throws in the megaphone. He's come back from the back. Axe nails Bret Hart as he attempts a pile driver and Smash pins for 3 to retain the titles. You see from the replay that Jimmy Hart has run from the back after being chased off earlier. Hart took the megaphone shot amazingly. Obviously, it's Bret Hart. I gave this 3.5 stars out of 5. This might well be match of the night for me. A well choreographed and strong heel victory at the end. Bret Hart looked totally exceptional in yet another early appearance. What did you think?
So, let me run down my notes. Demolition's entrance gear is ridiculous. Like, their wrestling gear, their in-ring gear is really bad, but the sort of weird dome masks that they've got on, they're sort of gimp masks, look ridiculous. There's no need for them to be there. Like, their outfits are like way too much already, and adding the masks for them to come in just looks so dumb. Brett already looks really good at this point. In fact, the note that I've written here is, I always felt sorry for Neidhart because Brett looks so good.
No, Neidhart just doesn't have the build. It just doesn't. It's just not naturally there.
And he looks about 3 times his actual age. Like, he can't be that old at this point.
Yeah.
And he already looks like
he's about mid-30s
50,
here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that, yeah, like you say, Brett looks incredible. He is kind of destined to be the star that he kind of becomes.
Yeah.
And yeah, always like Hart Foundation, just felt a bit sorry for Neidhart. One thing about Brett's arm, an amazing thing about Brett is that whenever a body part gets injured, which you'll notice happens a lot with Brett, like they'll focus on a particular body part. The reason they do that is because he knows to sell that part all the way through to the end of the match. But in this match,
did you do it wrong?
He starts off, I think it's his left arm that starts being injured. And that's fine for a bit because they're working on it and stuff. And then at one point, Demolition forget which arm they're supposed to have injured. And they start working on his other one. I think it switches from left to right. And you can see that Brett looks a bit confused. Like, why are they working on this? Okay, I guess I'll swap. And then he swaps over halfway through, which arm is actually injured. Good match. I put first great match of the pay-per-view.
Right.
Classic tag team distraction of the ref. All the things that you'd look for in a tag match. 8 out of 10.
Oh, 4.
And I also put Brett MVP ?
We will get to that, and I will agree with you not to give away any spoilers. We get another boxing promo, and then Mean Gene is backstage with Honky Tonk Man and other heels in the locker room. Honky Tonk Man goes around ruining shit and says he was robbed by a conspiracy. He says he was willing to wrestle anyone but not the Ultimate Warrior, before saying he will get his belt back. Match 8 then is the Big Boss Man with the rather high Slick.
Boss Man looks about 12 in this, by the way.
And really fat. So big.
So fat.
It's annoying because he lost all the weight and then died.
Yeah.
Amazing. Versus
the damage is already done, probably.
Versus Koko Beware.
Yeah.
Billy Graham remarks that Big Boss Man could do with doing some hard time of his own in the gym or at the steroid doctors. Well done for pointing the obvious out, Billy Graham. Koko Beware comes out and rests Frankie on the ropes for a bit, who bobs up and down. I love Frankie. Slick distracts Koko Beware, and Big Boss Man takes control. However, soon after, KKB gets in a dropkick after the Big Boss Man is tied up in the ropes. Koko Beware then performs a diving headbutt. Boss Man gets back into control as the match progresses, hitting a crazy splash in the ropes, which looks like a glorified squash. After hitting another huge power slam, he goes up for a splash, but misses it. He goes on to miss... oh, wait, I've already got that. Koko Beware replies with big hits coming off the ropes and also goes on to hit a splash of his own. However, Big Boss Man throws him off the pin attempt in a kick-out described as throwing out yesterday's garbage by Monsoon. Koko Beware is then thrown out of the corner, and the Big Boss Man hits a crazy side slam move thing to pick up the 3. Surprisingly, a really good match for a big v little guy thing. A match that is essentially an extended squash, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was good. I always thought Koko had a really crap gimmick. The Birdman, like, I don't really know what does that mean. I first really became aware of him.
I think it means racism.
Yeah.
Do you know he used to come out to the Bird by the time?
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Which isn't edited out of some of the earlier stuff, which I was surprised by.
Really?
Especially with Prince's, thing against copyright.
So yeah, Bossman looks about 12. Koko's got a crap gimmick. I really liked him when he was in a team with Owen Hart.
Right.
Which was... I always thought it was quite a cool thing. 2 little guys, kind of nimble. My next note is Big Boss Man should not go to the top rope because there's one time when he does it and he's up there for all of 0.0001 seconds before having to leap off because he realises that he should not be up there. Yeah. I put botched finish, but I can't actually remember how it finished.
No, he just hits his usual slam. So.
Oh, yeah, no, but the way he picks him up is
was it?
terrible.
Was it
yeah, it's really bad. I gave it a 6 out of 10, but it's probably more a 5 out of 10.
Oh, ouch.
No, it's 6 out of 10. It's certainly better than the opening matches.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Koko B. Ware is nailed with the nightstick by Boss Man, and we're into another Survivor Series promo before we...
Can't wait to watch that Survivor Series.
Yeah, wow. We cut to Sean Mooney with the Ultimate Warrior and Face Friends. Warrior tells us how the heavens told him to move from parts unknown to Madison Square Garden. The rest of the promo is just incoherence and flexing before he says he's now exiting to get on the next spaceship back to parts unknown. Loved this promo.
Yes.
Thought it was great.
Any Warrior promos pretty much.
Even though they don't make any sense.
They're great. They're fun. I just watch those all day.
Match 9 then. We're really getting down. There's only one more match after this. Match 9 is Hercules, no longer Hercules Hernandez, versus Jake the Snake Roberts. So Jake the Snake Roberts throws Damien in the bag, still in the bag, away, like chucks him away as Hercules attacks. I'm sure animal rights activists loved this, and they had something to say about it. Probably not as much as they had to say when Roberts neglected Damien in his house and killed him. I believe that's the true story.
Really?
Yeah. Roberts tries early...
Was there more than one Damien?
Oh, there might have been loads of Damiens,
Probably.
who knows. Roberts tries early for the DDT, but Hercules attacks with the crowd desperate for the DDT. Roberts blocks Hercules' punches, slams him, and Roberts headlocks into a backdrop by Hercules. I don't know why I've written there. Into backdrop by Hercules, but Roberts still retains the headlock. Hercules goes on to dominate with a heavy clothesline, but gets no 3 after a nonchalant and cocky pin. Heen isn't out to support his man Hercules. The commentator suggests he might be caught in the elevator after being chased from the commentary position. Hercules has a chin lock on Roberts for ages. Roberts is elbowed out by Hercules after he attempts a hammerlock. A bit further down the line, Roberts ends up throwing a hesitant Hercules over the top from the apron. Hercules clotheslines him on the ropes from the outside. Roberts is caught up in the chin lock again, but manages to get out, hitting the big jabs and short clotheslines in preparation for the DDT. However, this is reversed into a backdrop by Hercules. Roberts misses a knee lift in the corner, but he eventually sneaks out of a power slam to hit the DDT for an exhausting win. I gave this one 3.5 stars out of 5. Found this to be another really strong filler contest, but once again, this card should have featured Roberts v. Rude. And then Damien is stuck right in the face of Hercules at the conclusion, as you'd expect.
So, I'm not that familiar with Hercules. I just was doing a little bit of reading. He left the WWF in 1992,
right.
Which is probably about the time when I started.
Right, yeah.
I guess the Royal Rumbles that I know particularly well are like 93, 94, 95.
Right. Yeah.
So, it looks like he left in 92, and in the 92 Royal Rumble he lasted less than a minute, so he was probably
on the way out.
Definitely on the way out at that point. I'm not familiar with Hercules. He seems like the most generic non-character that I think I've ever seen in a match this high up the card. Like you say, should have been Jake versus Rude. I don't know what the point of this match was. Did they have to fill the card? Like, it just seems...
Couldn't have another Brother Love segment, could they?
Well, exactly. It just seems really weird. My other notes are Jake's got the best punches in WWF history.
Yeah. Or Taker. Taker's got good punches.
Yeah, no, I think I still prefer Jake because he looks
like the short jab.
Well, he looks like a bar brawler, so it makes sense that one of his main moves are to actually just punch people in the face. That makes sense. Great setup by introducing the attempted DDT earlier in the match.
Yeah,
it's got the crowd hyped for something that's upcoming, and I think he tries it once really early, then it gets reversed later on, and then when he finally hits it, it's like, this is the perfect finisher. 8 out of 10. Because he's appeared in 2 matches, and I really enjoyed his performance in this one, I put Jake MVP, ?
Ooh. So we then get a promo package for the main event, Powers v Bucks. Once again, as I said earlier, Savage is struck on a platform doing a promo by DiBiase, and Andre chokes him out. DiBiase delivers cheap kicks as Virgil holds Elizabeth so she can see what's happening to her man. Heenan accepts. No, not Heenan. Oh, maybe it is Heenan. Accepts Savage's opponent without knowing who his partner will be, and Ventura is announced as a special referee. DiBiase is delighted that the heel-leaning Ventura is the referee. Hulk Hogan is announced as Savage's partner, and the crowd obviously goes crazy. Ventura says he isn't afraid of anyone, even as Andre the Giant threatens him on the Brother Love show. DiBiase stuffs money into Ventura's pocket as an attempted bargaining tool, and Ventura doesn't reject it. There's a huge pop as the main event is announced by Howard Finkel. Ventura is introduced as the special guest referee. He's not wearing ref stripes, and his attire is about as far from a referee costume as you'd expect with the rather extravagant Jesse the Body Ventura.
Bandana.
Cover
up the fact that he was definitely going bald.
And I love his massive snakeskin suits as
Ridiculous.
Well. Yeah. Match 10 then is the Mega Bucks, DiBiase and Andre the Giant with Heenan and Virgil. So we've already got 4 guys taking part before we've even seen the... What? Virgil?
No, I hate Heenan. Like, there's no point in Heenan existing.
He's like my second favourite manager after Paul Heyman.
There's no point in Heenan. There's no point in Virgil.
Virgil is pointless. And he's a massive liar, apparently, if you go to any of his events.
So I hear not great things about Virgil. I like everyone in this match, pretty much. Like, not a huge fan of Andre, but, I mean, he is what he is. Really like Ted DiBiase. Probably one of the best heels of all time. There's problems with Hogan, as you've probably already discussed on the show.
Yeah.
Macho is one of my favourites of all time.
Definitely.
He is one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
Great gimmick, great on the mic, brilliant in the ring. I always felt like he was kind of overshadowed by Hogan a little bit, particularly around this time. And I think he's a way better wrestler, way more interesting character, and apparently a really nice dude.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So, yeah, it is Savage and Hogan who make up the Mega Powers with Elizabeth. She's described as the First Lady of Wrestling due to Savage's title reign. So we've got 7 people involved in this match overall. 4 and 3.
Yeah. No, 8 people, because...
Who else is there?
Jesse as well.
Oh, I suppose you could count Jesse in there
who's
as well.
Kind of tied up in the whole thing.
So the Mega Powers come out to Savage's music, which must have just about killed a returning Hogan. But he did at least get Savage and Elizabeth in his colours. Ventura is adamant that all managers and hangers-on must go to the floor, but doesn't order anyone to the locker room, despite Monsoon's protestations. Ventura randomly changes the corner of the tag ropes, and he goes mental when Hogan attempts to talk to him, telling him to get his hands off him.
Yeah, that whole start was weird. Like,
yeah, why did he change? Maybe he was told to by Vince?
Absolutely no idea.
Vince from the heavens?
Absolutely no idea, because it doesn't make any difference in the match in any way. There's one point where Macho looks like he's going to one corner and then sort of realises that he doesn't know where he is. Yeah.
Savage and Hogan's egos clash as they just try to decide who will start. Savage wins and is immediately taken to task by Andre the Giant, who delivers heavy chops, but inexplicably tags out, probably because his body can't take them more than 3 minutes of action at this point.
Yeah.
So it's Savage v Ted DiBiase until Hogan is tagged in. So why didn't these two start off to begin with?
Yeah,
didn't make any sense.
So weird. Andre looks on that subject. Andre looks almost dead in this match.
I'm pretty sure he'd taken time out as well previous to this, because it really started to get to him.
Yeah.
An early atomic drop from Hogan leads to a back and forth punching battle. The Mega Powers take control with incredibly quick tags and strong continuity, but Ventura is unsurprisingly counting a little slow. Hogan gets in some elbows, but Andre the Giant stops him and also headbutts Savage. Elizabeth is told to get off the apron even though her man is in trouble. Andre the Giant repeatedly sits on Hogan and also pushes his foot into his throat. The commentary team question whether Andre is choking Hogan. Obviously. Ventura is all over the place in refereeing terms, but so probably not as invincible as he pretends to be on commentary, which is kind of an interesting dynamic to see. Ted DiBiase applies a chinlock / choke to Hogan for ages and grabs his hair for illegal leverage every now and again, which Ventura doesn't see or ignores, depending on how you want to spin this.
Yeah.
Hogan prevents the 3-count submission by keeping his arm up on the 3rd count. $1 Million Man and Hogan both hit each other with clotheslines, Both men are prostrate on the floor. I always have to be careful when I say that word.
Yep.
Hogan gets the tag to Savage, and he absolutely flies in with a clothesline on the apron and a classic axe handle. DiBiase crushes that momentum with the clothesline, allowing him to tag in Hogan. He sits on Savage in the corner, performing what you might call a stationary stink face. Ted DiBiase is back in, but his suplex only gets him a 2. He hits a backbreaker, but he unsurprisingly misses his blind elbow. I don't know if you saw this. So he climbs the rope with his back to Savage, then just falls off.
Oh yeah,
and obviously misses it.
Yeah, I did see that.
That was amazing.
If for a character like DiBiase, if that had worked, or like
so good.
If they'd done it, not if it had worked, but if Savage hadn't moved, what a great move.
Yeah. He taunts the crowd and misses the move. Hogan proceeds to destroy Ted DiBiase and knocks down Andre. Savage attempts an elbow from the top, but he gets hit in the face. Andre the Giant hits some headbutts, and the Mega Powers are cleared out. All of a sudden, Elizabeth is up on the apron. Heenan also turns up on the apron to protest, as Elizabeth refuses to drop back down. All of a sudden, Elizabeth takes off her skirt to reveal a skimpy outfit underneath, and the crowd pop big time for her ass. Ventura doesn't know what to do as he stands staring aghast at Elizabeth. So this was the tactic of the Mega Powers: overt sexism. Savage nails Andre the Giant, Hogan slams DiBiase, and Savage hits his elbow and Andre his leg drop as Savage forces Ventura to count the 3 for the victory. This was competent main event entertainment with a bizarre and distinctly chauvinistic ending. There was great crowd pandemonium at the end, though. What did you make of all of this?
So, good match. Like I said, I like everyone involved. And I'm not really a huge fan of Andre, but he is there to.
He's still an icon.
Be there. He's there in the ring. He doesn't really do very much. DiBiase is on fire. He's kind of. I didn't realise that he, like you say, this was supposed to be Flair maybe in this match.
Flair against Savage, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad it's not. I know you love Ric Flair, but I'm not a huge fan. So I really like seeing DiBiase, who apparently was not that big before this point. Like, this was one of his first.
Yeah. Well, he hadn't been in it that long. I think Survivor Series 87 was his.
So that was really good because I'm a big fan of DiBiase. And I mean, just watching Savage at any point in his career, basically, he's amazing. Like, even right up to the kind of end, I guess, or if you just watch some of the late 90s stuff.
Or Spider-Man.
If you watch some of the WCW stuff, like NWO and all that, he's still amazing then. The stuff with Elizabeth is very disappointing because the match is really good.
Yeah.
And probably at the time, if I'd have been watching this or if I'd watched it as a 10-year-old or whatever, I'd be like, wow, that's so cool. She's really sexy.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, this is horrendous. They couldn't get away. Well, they probably could. They probably would do this sort of thing now, but I think maybe not. There's particularly in the last few months, which is kind of when since Network has been kind of available. Like, I've been watching more wrestling, and like the portrayal of women seems to be much, much better than it was even 10 years ago, let alone...
I basically would put that down to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. But that might just be me being biased.
I think you're probably right, from what I gather. It was a really good match. Shame about this. I'm going to say Savage could be the MVP.
Right.
What I will say about this match is that I watched a documentary on Mega Powers recently.
Right.
And this match sets off basically everything that happened with this team afterwards.
Yeah.
Because Hogan picks up Elizabeth before Savage does. So I don't know. I've got a feeling there was actually something going on, like, for realsies.
I don't know about that.
And then Savage is like, you see, they do some brilliant acting in this. And whether it was like something that, backstage mutterings that then whoever was writing at the time went, oh, we should do something with that.
Yeah.
They play it really, really well. There's like real little subtle touches. There's at one point where she's up on Savage's shoulders and Hogan gives her a little tap.
Yeah.
And that's clips that you see like replayed when they break up and they're fighting each other over Miss Elizabeth. So just like little bits that they seed at the end of this match actually went on to like that was the storyline for these two wrestlers for quite a while, and it all happens in the last 10 seconds of this match. You know,
how did you rate this one? I think I gave it 3 out of 5.
I rated this match 8 out of 10.
Oh, so 4.
Just because I like Macho a lot. The ending is really, really, just really disappointing and really.
I like the bizarreness of it. I didn't like the sexism of it.
Well, yeah, it's just not a good storyline. With hindsight, it's not a great way for it to. It's just not a good look. But good match.
We get the usual Hogan Savage posing at the end, and Elizabeth hasn't covered up her revealing outfit. They pose in exactly the same way as WrestleMania 4, with Elizabeth on Savage's shoulders, but as you said, Hogan gives the little taps every now and again. Billy Graham tries to call Hogan the bionic bicep man, but it doesn't catch on, shockingly.
He says something like, the man with the bionic biceps, and then everyone ignores him, and then he goes... That's his name from now on. The man with the bionic biceps, and then no one ignores him again.
We don't get a big commentary post-show this time, and we've reached the end of the pay-per-view, so I might as well conclude with what I thought. Okay. So, many reviews I've seen have absolutely slated this event, but for me, this was a hell of a lot better than WrestleMania 4. The filler content was a lot stronger, and it wasn't dragged down with having to fit into this having to have God knows how many matches like WrestleMania 4 did with the tournament dynamic. Particular special mentions have to go to the tag team opener, which was an exhibition in how to put on a strong and lengthy tag match. I was also a big fan of the tag titles match, especially Bret Hart. Also Big Boss Man, Koko Ware, and Roberts versus Hercules, bizarrely. I don't know why I enjoyed those. The IC title match and main event were also entertaining spectacles, even if the wrestling was put on the back burner. The MVP of the match the MVP of the night for me, once again, has to go to Bret Hart, who really should have received a singles push as soon as the Hart Foundation stopped being heels. Sorry to Neidhart for that. The worst performance for me is a toss-up between Billy Graham, brother, and also Ken Patera, whose singlet and wrestling ability were questionable at best.
Yep.
My one main gripe was that terrible Brother Love segment with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which was utterly pointless and could have been used up for another squash or filler match. However, overall, this was an entertaining show, which somewhat undid the slight disappointment I had with WrestleMania 4. Overall, I gave this an 8 out of 10.
What do I have to name? MVP?
Yep.
Most disappointing or worst performance? Yep. What else?
Couple of good matches.
Okay, so MVP for me, it's tough. It is tough. I'm gonna go with. I don't know. It's a toss-up between Bret, who looked very, very good, but the match overall wasn't particularly exhilarating. Like, it was a good match. It was, and particularly on this card where I think there was a lot of guff. It was good. I think that Savage probably is my MVP because that was a good match. Despite my reservations about the ending, there's some stuff post-ending that he's involved in, which then spins off into some big stuff. And I just like watching him wrestle, and I like the various promos that he's in leading up to the match. Just good stuff. Worst performance, I mean, Ken Patera is definitely there. Yeah, I mean, I would say that my worst matches are Bad News Brown with Ken Patera and the Powers of Pain and the Bolsheviks. Just not a great match. Oh no, actually that's a lie.
You rated that quite high.
Yeah, no, that's it's okay. I just thought it wasn't very agile. Okay, so my worst matches are Bad News Brown and Ken Patera and Dino Bravo and Don Muraco. I really don't like Dino Bravo. He might be my worst.
Yeah, he's not the best.
No, he's my worst performance.
Oh, there you go, Bravo. And what would you give it out of 10 overall?
I would say it's a 7 out of 10 overall. I think the Bulldogs match is great. Bad News Brown match is terrible. Rick Rude is middling. Powers of Pain is middling. Warrior Honky Tonk Man is entertaining. Indeed. Dino Bravo, Don Muraco is awful. Demolition versus Hart Foundation is very good. There's some interesting things to note there. Mr. Fuji is quite cool in that as well. I always like seeing him being wheeled out. And Jimmy Hart is good to see. Big Boss Man against Koko Beware. Nice to see Big Boss Man when he looks about 12. It's good fun. Jake Roberts is great. Always like to see him. And then the finale I thought was problematic, but good.
Okay.
7 out of 10.
So, quick little bit of aftermath for the event. So, 20,000 fans turned up at Madison Square Garden for the event. The buy rate for the event was 4.5, equating to about 382,000 people, apparently, although some believe the actual figure to be closer to 400,000 or 500,000. Warrior began a rise to prominence after his IC title win and gained more airtime on TV. His feud with the Honky Tonk Man carried on for several months before feuding with Rick Rude in 1989, which I'm looking forward to seeing. After retaining their title against the Hart Foundation at the after retaining the title against the Hart Foundation at the event, Demolition would go on to hold the title for another 11 months as part of a record 16-month reign before losing to the Brainbusters on the 18th of July 89 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event.
Who was in the Brainbusters?
I can't remember who was in the Brainbusters. I'd have to look that up. Demolition's popularity grew and they would eventually turn face, but more on that later in the series. The Mega Powers tagged together for a little while but began to explode as Savage grew increasingly paranoid of the on-air or off-air relationship, as you said, between Hogan and Elizabeth. I'm not actually sure if that was a thing, but I'll go with that anyway.
Yeah, we'll see.
But more on that later in the series as well. So, that is a wrap for today, guys. Thanks for listening into this edition of the WrestleReview podcast, looking back at SummerSlam 88. Remember to like and subscribe if you're tuning in from YouTube, repost and share on SoundCloud, and please send your feedback to the email address WrestleReviewFans@gmail.com. Thanks to Mark for joining me again. Thank you very much.
Thanks
again.
very much.
I don't know why I said again.
Not again. I will join you again.
Hopefully. As I've said here, hopefully it won't be the last time. And be sure to check out his own YouTube channel and Twitter page. What is your YouTube channel?
So I do a series of videos actually under the name Guitar Nerds.
Yeah.
You can find us at Guitar Nerds Videos on YouTube. So youtube.com/Guitar Nerds Videos. There's some stuff on there about weird signature models. There's stuff about weird Fender Strats and Les Pauls and stuff. Or you can get me on Twitter at Mark_random where I talk about stuff, or Instagram Mark_random. Take pictures of food, as does everyone. And football. And
GG coastlines as well. Everyone does a cheeky coastline.
Yeah, a bit of Brighton Beach every now and then. And a bit of non-league football. Good stuff.
Alright, thank you very much for joining me, Mark. Don't forget to listen into the other awesome shows on the Piledriver /OSW podcast network. Next time we'll be looking at Survivor Series 1988, and I'll hopefully be joined by Mr. Tom Sinden again, who's back from gallivanting around the United States. Join us to see how the Mega Powers team gets on against the Twin Towers. That's Akeem and Big Boss Man's team. Big Boss Man's back.
Yeah.
So see you then, but for now, see you later, wrestling fans. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.